The NRL's Magic Round in Brisbane was another rousing success for rugby league in Australia. That concept, of course, was, I guess we'll say, borrowed from the UK Super League, which has been doing Magic Round events since 2007. These days, Aussie rules and Super Rugby have even gotten in on the magical act. The concept behind the idea is really simple. Have a bunch of teams get together in one city, play a few games each day over the course of a weekend, and then when that's not happening, you just have all of these other events simply celebrating the sport as a whole. It's truly a festival atmosphere that provides a much needed break for fans from the monotony that is the regular season. It's one of those situations in sports that's a rare win-win-win for fans. They get to see all of the stars, all of the top talent play games in one city. Teams and leagues get a lot of exposure and tend to make some money off the whole ordeal, and the host city gets an event that brings in a large number of visitors while also encouraging those who live there to come out and watch the sport. So why don't we do this in America? That is an interesting question, because I believe in some circumstances the Magic Round concept, the Magic Weekend concept, it can work here. I suppose the question though needs to be answered on a league by league, sport by sport basis. Quite frankly, there are just some competitions stateside where it would not work in the slightest. Before we jump into that, we do need to mention the entire Magic Round, Magic Weekend concept. It would need to be tweaked in America, where you have huge leagues featuring upwards of 30 teams. Cramming 15 games across 2 or 3 days, it's just too much. You don't want this thing lasting more than 3 days, and you probably don't want more than 3 games on any given day. Anything more and you're just going to burn out fans. And you also want those coming to the city to have a chance to go out, explore, and just see what is on offer, the other sights and sounds besides watching games. Basically, for a US league, what you would need to do is pick, 16 teams. You then have 8 games in that context. You could spread it out over the course of a Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday, or you could incorporate a public holiday in there as well. Whatever the case may be, you're looking at having one day with 2 games and then both Saturday and Sunday with 3 games, which seems to be an ideal mix. With so many American sports out there trying to find ways to reinvigorate the regular season, trying to get people more interested in just every old regular season game, the Magic Weekend, Magic Round concept is one that makes a lot of sense. It's a great way to break up the grind, or just that time when maybe people start to lose interest or just don't have the appetite to continue following game 55 of an 82 game season. Let's start with where this concept would work best in the States. And for me, the NHL immediately springs to mind. It's a sport that often prides itself on being a community thing, especially in Canada or even in the northern US, you do have these smaller communities that all rally behind hockey. Meanwhile, the sport's fans are passionate and they do tend to travel well. If you held an NHL Magic Weekend in one of the original 6 cities, Chicago and Toronto really are the ones that I have in mind for this, I think it does huge numbers. I think it's well attended, and I think you get a mix of locals and fans coming in from out of town. Places like Nashville and Las Vegas would also be great hosts for this. These are destinations that do have passionate local support for teams and a budding hockey community. Personally, though, I would be extremely interested in hosting this in Quebec City. Can you just imagine having 8 NHL games over the course of a weekend in Quebec? It would be awesome. Locals would buy tickets like gangbusters. The atmosphere for these games would be absolutely positively electric. It would be such a signature event on the NHL calendar just to have this slate of regular season games played in Quebec City. It would be really just fantastic all around. Of course, there are 1,000,001 reasons why that would never happen. Regardless of where, the Magic Round, Magic Weekend, whatever you want to call it concept, it adds a moment on the regular season calendar for people to look forward to, but one that's not inorganic, just a contrived event that makes no sense. Something like the NBA in-season tournament? That nonsensical competition is a joke. Ask Darvin Ham about what winning it really means. However, the NBA is also another league that would be ideal for a Magic Weekend. At the very least, it won't be any worse than Magic Hour. That was a terrible show based on an idea that should have never, ever gotten off the ground. For the Magic Round NBA style, though, I think it makes a lot of sense given just what we know about the sport's regular season. There are a lot of games and they sort of blend together after a while. Having an event like this, a 3-day showcase, again, as I said earlier, just creates a point on the calendar where it's something to look forward to for fans, something different to look forward to for fans. Locations would be similar to NBA All-Star Weekend, I suppose, but I'd even throw out a city like Seattle or maybe even St. Louis, markets that don't have an NBA team, but are ones that, you know, the sport, the league could want to have a presence in. Of course, we could also just bring back the Seattle Supersonics and be done with that. The other large-ish American sport that could consider doing a Magic Round Magic Weekend is soccer, and I see reasons for both MLS and USL to look into this. The interesting thing here, though, is that unlike the NHL and NBA, which are sort of limited by arena size, soccer could scale up to larger venues to increase ticket sales in the 3 days. This, though, is probably more relevant to MLS than the USL. They could easily run an NFL stadium or even a college football stadium with a larger capacity. As for where, Atlanta is probably the best place to start given that team's attendance in the local market as well as Atlanta's status as a transportation hub. Another option, of course, is Southern California, which is a huge market for soccer all around. For the USL, I'd say you'd split it up by division, so the Western Conference could hold its Magic Round in Sacramento. The Eastern Conference would have its Magic Round in Louisville, the two cities that do have really strong attendance and larger than normal fan bases. That being said, there's still a lot of local marketing that would need to be done to make sure all of the games are attended, but there's some juice to the idea and I think it could work. Now, the Magic Round Magic Weekend idea does not work for all American sports. Perhaps most notably is the NFL. You could argue professional football doesn't even need to do something like this if we're being honest. Firstly, NFL teams travel in parties of like 80 or 90. So if you have 12, 16 teams descending upon one city, and then additionally you're asking all of these fans also to come to that city, it's just going to be a logistical nightmare. You'd also need to play on a turf field for this because a grass one would be tore up after the second game, potentially even the first game. Finally, the NFL just has a scarcity of regular season games to begin with. It doesn't need to do this because there's probably not much money to be made. It doesn't really expand the game all of that much. It's pretty good as is with its regular season. The opposite of that would be baseball, which has too many games to make this possible. MLB teams pretty much have to be playing every day from spring to fall in order to get all 162 in. A Magic Round where a team is playing one game across 3 days, it just messes up the calendar. There's also the problem of time. Baseball doesn't use a clock, meaning you can't time out when one game ends and another begins. If the first match goes 14 innings or takes 4 hours to play or there's a rain delay or something happens, well, it just throws off the entire day's scheduling. I think though, most importantly, does anyone really want to see 8 baseball games over the course of 3 days? I love baseball, and even I think it's probably a bit too much. From a fan perspective, when it comes to this idea, I think it would be awesome to watch a bunch of NHL, NBA, or soccer teams in one place over the course of a weekend. As someone who will go on a couple of sports trips to somewhere in America during the course of any given year, having the convenience of scheduling this brings is awesome. It allows you to get the most bang for your buck. On the flip side, leagues doing this have a special date on the calendar that adds some meaning to the regular season, something they've struggled to do for years now. With All-Star games now all but meaningless, the Magic Round Magic Weekend can serve as sort of a replacement for that. Just having all of your stars in one place playing games, but playing games that mean something, I think it would be a smash hit. Returning to the original question of why don't US sports do some sort of Magic Round, I suppose the answer is either owners don't want to give up a home date or no one wants to do the logistics required to make this work. For American sports, they would need to tailor the Magic concept to better suit their structure. You can't have all the teams playing in these events, it'd be too much. However, I firmly believe there is a way to make this work stateside. Hell, you don't even need to be David Blaine to see that. At the very least, this won't be any worse than that stupid NBA in-season tournament. So I mean, if we're doing that, why not give Magic Weekend a shot? Thank you for watching this video. To learn more about the American professional sports team that tried selling its name to a corporation, video upper right hand corner of your screen is the place to go. And to find out why owners try to get fans to turn against each other in instances of relocation, video lower right hand corner of your screen. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is The Touchback. And as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.